Welcome to Charlie 27 and the awareness campaign, one that affects every woman in America. And of course, the men who love and care about them. My name is Ulysses Clay Jr., CEO of the UCJ Group and Charlie 27. Up next, how do you deal with the loss of a child? That's up next, and oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it. Stay tuned as my special guest shares her story. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Charlie 27. The question is, how do you deal with the loss of a child? My special guest is from Miami, Florida. She's a mom, grandmother, and an HR professional. Please help me welcome Miss Latanya Ellis Brown. Welcome, Miss Brown, to Charlie 27. I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm good. Thank you for having
I hope you had a very blessed and prosperous day.
me. Yes, I did.
Awesome. We met actually on Facebook via a Facebook group. She and I are part of a group and that caters to parents that have lost a child, right? And a young lady actually posted, and she posted something on the Facebook group that really got my attention out, and likewise got Miss Brown's attention. But she posted, and I'm paraphrasing, but she was wondering how many people are concerned about people not remembering their child. And she was talking about her daughter as well. And one of the things that I posted, and I just talked about what has helped me in this process, is the Charlie 27 Foundation. And then Miss Brown, she posted as well, and she started talking about her son and his foundation she started for him. By the way, her son that passed away, actually, he was, unfortunately, he was murdered. Ladies and gentlemen, his name was Demetrius, and she started a foundation called the Poopy Foundation, which I want her to really talk about that as well. But let me just ask you, Miss Brown, who was Demetrius, your son?
Well, my son Demetrius, he was a soft-spoken, humble, quiet child. From the moment that he was able to start communicating, I noticed, his humbleness and how quiet he was, and his attachment to me, his mommy. um, but he loved life, of course, like as we all do. He had dreams, he had aspirations. He wanted to actually become a pharmacist.
Wow.
And that, he had started a little research, not a lot, but a little research on the best schools, what he would need to be strong in school, in high school, about how much pharmacists make. And he was intrigued with that. And he was looking forward to pursuing that dream. And of course, unfortunately, his life was cut short at the age of 18. He had just started his senior year in high school.
Wow. Wow. Now, was he? If you don't mind sharing, what happened? And I know it hasn't been an easy thing for you. And as a parent, I totally get it. I totally can relate. Just a different circumstance, but it doesn't matter how your child uh, transition. It's never easy, right?
Right.
So if you would please just share with us that unforgettable day, the visit from the police in reference to your son Demetrius.
Yes. I guess I'll backtrack to September 18th, which was the day before he passed. He was home and he went out and he didn't come home, which was unusual. But as a parent, I'm figuring, he's an 18-year-old. Maybe he feels like he needs to flex his muscle. He thinks he's a man and he can stay out a little later, which was not something that I condone. But as the time wore on, I'm like, something is wrong. And I started just having this sick feeling. And those of us that are parents, we know the feeling when something is wrong with our child. And I was up all night, you know, preparing for the worst, actually. Um, Up all night, I was looking out the window, actually preparing for, a visit from the police. Just I knew something was wrong. And Sunday morning, woke up. Finally, he wasn't here. Um, that further confirmed that something was wrong because he never missed church. Got up, got ready for church, went to church, still nothing. Came home, nothing. And at the same time, I'm looking at my front door as I'm pulling up to my home, looking for a card from a police officer or something. Went out to eat with my older daughters. Everyone was concerned. And I can remember conveying to my family, I hope he's in jail, because I knew something was wrong with him. I knew he was in trouble. And maybe about 5:30 that evening, I get the knock on the door, the knock that no parent wants. And, it was Miami Gardens police. At the time, they knew my name because backtracking when he was in elementary school, I had him a part of a program that's called IdentiKid, where they would fingerprint the children. So if your child is missing, there's a way of identifying them. And through IdentiKid, believe it or not, they found out his identity because he had no ID on him. His ID was taken, his phones, everything. And the detectives knew my name. They called my name, LaTanya Brown, and of course asked me to come in. Said come in the house, which I didn't want to. I didn't want them in my house because I didn't want to hear what they're about to tell me, because at this point, they're not coming to tell me that my son is in jail. Something is wrong. But how bad is it? And after collecting myself as much as I can, and, them, of course, giving you the, can you have a seat speech, they laid it out to me. And initially, I was a little relieved because they presented it as your son was they said, do you know Demetrius Williams? I'm like, yeah. Well, he was involved in an altercation. So altercation to me is a fight.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, okay. And then he said he was shot. And that echoed in my head, seemed like an eternity. He was shot. And I'm looking at the detectives, both of their faces, trying to figure out, well, how bad is it? But I couldn't, of course, read it. And they just told me that he was in very bad shape and he wasn't expected to survive. But as a mother, as a parent, you don't want to hear that. You believe in the man above. You immediately start praying, and I just knew better that he would survive. He may have a long recovery,
sure,
but he would survive. And made my way to the hospital. Surgeon told me they were not sure how he even survived as long as he had, that his major artery was severed. He was shot in the side, the lower side, and it severed his major artery. And that they are amazed that he was actually still with us, but that he was not going to make it. Demetrius lived for a total of 39 hours with a severed artery. And after 7 times of passing and being resuscitated, I had to make the hard decision to do what was best for my child and let him go home.
Wow. That's hard to hear. I mean, even again, second time. One of the things I want to ask you. So, was he in a coma the whole time and during the hospital?
Yes, he actually was not breathing on his own.
Okay.
When I walked into the room, I mean, I'm just surrounded by machines and people, and just that vision told me that it was really bad, because he was hooked up to everything you can think of, and 7, 8 people constantly tending to him, and he's a little swollen, and he has, just machines everywhere. And I noticed a machine that had a picture of a lung on it. And I also noticed that his breathing did not seem natural. It seemed labored.
Right.
And I asked the attendant nurse, was he breathing on his own? And she just paused and said, no, ma'am. But I still had faith, you know.
Sure.
This is just a setback. You know, we're on a road of life, and this is just a speed bump. It's not a roadblock. He's going to have a long recovery, and this is going to be his testimony as well as mine. I just never expected for him not to make it, although they told me from the very beginning.
Wow. And that was 2 years ago, right?
2 years ago, on the 19th of this month, actually.
On 19th. No, that's a couple of weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow. Let me ask you this. What, because I went through, as I stated, I know I went through depression, went through it, it took, 3 years straight, I agree, in silence for the most part, in my own way. Talk to us about your process thus far, and how has it been for you?
Well, needless to say, it's been hard. You know, that goes without saying.
Sure.
I just try to take it one day at a time. Some day it's 1 minute at a time. You know, of course, there are better days than others. The best way that I can describe how I've been feeling is sad all the time, regardless of happy moments, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
There are moments that I'm genuinely happy, I'm laughing, I'm joking, but I'm still sad because a part of me is missing. My child is not here. He's, of course, as we all know, in a better place. But as a mother, I need to take care of him, and I can't right now. You know, God has him, but I still want to take care of him.
Right. And for you as well as so many of us, one of the things that actually creeps in is guilt.
Right.
Did you ever experience any of that yourself?
I absolutely did. Of course, it's what could I have done better? What could I have said differently? What could I have did differently? A number of things. Did I say the right thing before, the last time that I saw him? Did
Right.
Did he know I love him? You know, of course, we all know that our children know that we love them, but once they're gone, it's a question like, did he realize exactly what he meant to me, exactly how much I loved him?
Sure.
And I feel like, I needed to give him that one last, I love you, not knowing it would be the last, but it's a ton of guilt. Should I have not let him go, leave the house at night? Should I have, just a number of things.
Now, when he left, did he leave by himself, or did he leave with a friend, or?
He left by himself. Actually, initially, I did not even know that he was gone. He was speaking with that neighbor that lives behind us, and he asked him, could he call an Uber for him because he wanted to go to a friend of his house that I was not too fond of to play Madden.
Yeah.
And, I didn't even know he was gone. And that friend is, I hate to say it, is the cause of his death.
Wow. Was there any closure? Did you get any as far as that concerned, a friend, or was anybody arrested up to this point, or what's going on with that?
Unfortunately, not at this point. We haven't had an arrest. I contacted detectives, and depending on, I guess I'll say the day, sometimes, honestly, I want an arrest, and sometimes I don't. And I know that may sound weird, and I say sometimes I don't because I don't know if me and my family can survive a trial.
Gotcha.
If someone is arrested, and I don't know. So
because it's like reliving the event, or Yeah, gotcha.
Correct.
That emotion and everything just all over again. You mentioned your
Correct.
family. You have two lovely daughters,
Yes.
um, Erica and Brittany. Like me and
Mm-hmm.
myself, I have a Brittany. Um, how has it been for your girls?
It's been a struggle for them. My oldest, Erica, actually, she hasn't accepted it. She, for the most part, ignores it. She has said, and she acts as if he's just away, as if
Mm,
he, went on a trip or something like that. She has went to the graveyard, not often. I mean, and that's just her way of dealing with it. But
sure.
and she actually at his funeral she spoke, and from what I understand, she spoke really well. And I say, from what I understand, I was out of it. I don't know what happened.
Gotcha.
Um, but she ended up losing it at the graveyard because I guess reality hit her. Okay, this is really happening,
Right.
and she does. She ignores it. Brittany, she's more emotional about it. She doesn't talk about it a lot, but I think it's because she doesn't want to upset me.
Right.
But she she's having a terrible time dealing with it as well.
So she's trying to be strong for her mom. Sounds like, and
Correct.
just yes, that makes sense. It's I was just thinking about my Brittany and her. She's the baby as well, and her older sister was, she was everything. She really looked up to her, respected her, and both her sisters. But uh, the older sister is like the mom in a sense
Hmm.
too. Because they're 3 years and then 6 years apart.
Right.
As far as your family, because I know it's so very, very important that every family seek professional counseling. We certainly did, and then we didn't. Okay, and I say that because we dealt with it for the most part individually when we did. Because my kids were, they have all, grown like yours, and at the time, and doing their own thing, and different parts of the country as well. So talk to us about that, and if your family have had counseling.
No. Well, um, I'm hesitant to say no because two out of the three of us have not. When I
Gotcha.
say two out of the three, myself and my daughters, my youngest Brittany just actually went to a counselor for marriage counseling, but the counselor noticed that she may be suffering from depression.
Mm.
So what
Hold,
came out of that?
hold that thought real quick. I got to take a break, and we'll
Okay,
pick it up right on the other side.
okay.
We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Ulysses Clay with Charlie 27 Awareness Campaign. My special guest is Miss Latanya Brown, and we're talking about, how the question is, how do you deal with the loss of a child? And we're talking about the loss of her son, her baby boy, Demetrius Williams, who was only 18 years young, ladies and gentlemen, when he was actually murdered. And we just talking about, the counseling that she and her family had. Some of them have gone to counseling, and said your baby girl Brittany, she just started. It just pick up where you left off. You said she started going for marriage counseling, and then what happened with that?
The professional that they were speaking with, I guess, picked up or noticed that she may be suffering from depression, and she has scheduled a separate session to assist her with that. Um, Brittany said she spoke about her brother,
Mm,
and and through that talk, the professional was able to pick up that something is going on with her, and um, just scheduled her for a separate counseling session to try to help her through the emotions that she's going through. Because as we may, those of us that have lost our children, we go through different phases. We go through sadness. We go through anger. We go through this emptiness. We go through so many different phases.
Absolutely.
And the same is true for the rest of the family. And it's a lot of focus is just on the parent. I mean, rightfully so, but there are others, my mother, my father, my aunt, I mean, everyone, we're all going through it behind us.
Absolutely. Because what affects one potentially affects all of us, everyone.
Correct.
And that's true. I mean, I understand that all too well. When I guess my question is too, especially going through what I went through being married, it does affect the marriage. It's so many. I've talked to a young lady who's a counselor herself, and she had uh, a loss of two babies, two children, right? And they were twins. And at the 6th, 7th month mark, and she and I were talking, and hopefully I will get a chance to have her on the show. But she and I were talking about the process and how it affects one's marriage. So I totally get that, and it's so important that people get help. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going through this right now and you still haven't dealt with it, I don't care if it's 10 years ago it happened. My daughter was almost 10 years. It's over 9 years now, but I don't care how long it's been. If you have not, perhaps maybe got counseling, please seek counseling, because depression is a real thing. Mental health. I did a podcast on mental health about a week ago. And it's so many things that can trigger mental health. So many events in one's life can trigger mental health, but depression is very, 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 very important. I had a family member that recently admitted that she was going through depression, and it's something that we all have to step in and help and deal with if we can, because that's someone that we love dearly. Uh, Talk to me about one of the things I was impressed with. I mean, and let me just back up is the foundation, the Poopy Foundation, and the fact that you have done quite a bit, in my opinion, within less than 2 years with this foundation. Talk to us about what the acronym, what it stands for, and the things that you're doing and looking to do with the Poopy Foundation to honor your son.
Yes, thank you. The Poopy Foundation is an acronym of my son's nickname, Poopy. It stands for Positive Outcomes Over Peer Pressure Involving Everyone. Um, when I initially thought of creating a foundation, which was about 5 months after he left, I wanted to have a foundation that was meaningful, of course, that would be able to assist. At the time, I was targeting or focusing on the youth because the youth are in trouble. Believe it or not, we hear about it every day. Our children are dying, and I just wanted to do something to keep his name alive. He was known as Poopy by most of his friends, so I thought, what better way than to name the foundation after what he was affectionately known as, and the acronym itself, my daughter Brittany and I, we came up with together. We wanted it to mean something. We wanted it to strike interest. We wanted it to be like, I need to look into this foundation and see what they're about. Since we've created the foundation, I'll back up a little bit. I wanted to create the foundation and I wanted to help others, and not being a part of a nonprofit before, I just felt like, or just figured, if you wanted to help someone, here's your help, and that's that. The initial project that we had, or donation, was to give a scholarship to a graduating senior out of my son's class, the class of 2017 from Miramar High School. And after speaking with the principal, because the school was very, very supportive, the teachers, the principal, the administrators, they were so supportive. They were in total shock. They could not believe that this had happened to him. And they kept in touch. And after sharing my thoughts on wanting to award a scholarship to a deserving young man at the time that wanted to go to college, that may have had a rough time throughout his school career, or, throughout his young life, but turned everything around, I wanted to award a scholarship to that person. And after sharing my thoughts and ideas, I found that in order to donate even a scholarship to the school, you have to be a nonprofit. So I went through the necessary paperwork to create that, and we are a nonprofit. I'm pleased to say that we were able to award a $2,000 scholarship, as well as the laptop, to our first scholar by the name of Michael Eugene. He's now a sophomore at FAMU, doing very well. I still support him right now, every day, every week. I make sure he has funding, make sure he's on top of his grades.
That's awesome.
Just try to encourage him, because his family is not as supportive as they should be.
Sure.
And I'm very proud of him, very, very proud of him. And he understands how important the foundation is and what it means. And he's working hard to make me proud, and I appreciate that. But that was just the first initiative. We've stuffed purses for the ladies in the homeless shelters. There's a group down here for domestic violence. It's called Pain to Purpose, and this group collects toiletries for the ladies in the domestic violence shelter. Most ladies, once they get out of that relationship, all they have is what's on their back. So they're in need of personal hygiene, lotion, deodorant, brush, comb, simple things like that. And we put them in purses, and she donates them. We donated initially, I think, 8 super heavy purses because we put so much in there. I just recently donated some other toiletries about a week ago. I have uniforms that I buy for the school that my daughter teaches. I've donated turkeys and complete Thanksgiving meals to the students at the school that my daughter teaches, toy drives. I purchased quite a few toys, 2 bikes, and just donated them all to the school. Cash donations here and there, but all in the name of the Poopy Foundation.
Now, do you have a GoFundMe to help you with your foundation? Do you have sponsors?
No, I don't.
Or you just do it completely 100% you?
Completely 100% me, because this is my dream. And if someone wants to donate, that's fine, but we don't, and I say we, myself and my family, because I feel like we're all the Poopy Foundation now, but we don't look for any donations, because regardless if someone donates or not, I will help. So.
Right. Wow. That's really commendable. I know we talked about this briefly, and I was really impressed. That's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on the show, because you inspire me even more so, because I'm just starting the foundation, as I shared with Charlie 27. We're going to do a lot of things with it. We're going to touch a lot of lives with the foundation, and we also going to welcome supporters, donors, people who want to contribute, because that's my personal commitment for the next 10 years. What would you say as we wrap this podcast up? Because man, time just flies when you really are engaging into some really good content as we are. What would you say to the parents that have experienced a loss of a child? What would you say to them?
I would say to take it one day at a time, and as I mentioned earlier, 1 minute at a time. This is the hardest thing multiplied by infinity that any parent would have to face. The loss of a child is, I can't even put it into words, the difficulty and even living day to day. But I would say to just take it one day at a time. If you can, just make sure your child's legacy lives on, because you don't want your child, okay, they were here for whatever time God allowed them to be here, and that was that they're, you know, they're no longer here, and that's the end of it. You have to, at least my thought is, keep your child's name alive. The foundation for me, it helps. I feel like my son is proud of me. It helps me with my grieving process, to know that someone is being helped in his name. They may only mention his name one time. Wow, I got these school supplies from the Poopy Foundation. I got this book bag from the Poopy Foundation. So find something that will help you in your healing process. It may be just to create a legacy in your child's name. Always pray. That helps me. That, I think that's the only thing that may bring me peace, because this is bigger than any of us.
Sure, absolutely.
So just take it one day at a time. And as you alluded to earlier, if you need counseling, and we all do, and I'm guilty of it, I haven't accepted that I need to speak to someone.
Sure.
But seek help. Depression is real. This is the one event that will send you spiraling down really fast.
Absolutely. It is most certainly is, because you can't, no one can really relate unless having gone through it. And we appreciate everyone that's listening to this podcast, that will listen to it in the future. Our goal, Ms. Brown and our goal is to is awareness on this subject. It's to make help other people be aware, and perhaps maybe some things that they can do as stated. And we're going to come back and at another time and talk more on this subject. I got to have you back, because there's more that we can. I've got more questions that I can ask. But I just want to thank you for sharing your story, sharing your life, and sharing, most importantly, Poopy's life. Mr. Demetrius Williams' life and his legacy, because at the end of the day, that's what's important.